Good afternoon, Joe.
Lon, how's it going?
It's going great. How about you?
Doing all right. Staying busy. You having a good summer?
Yeah, great time. We just got back from Alaska.
Oh, really? I'm taking my son up there in a couple weeks. We're gonna go fishing up off of Prince of Wales Island for a week.
Oh, fantastic. I hope you have a good time. It's pretty incredible. It's definitely not one and done. I got like, I don't know, three or four more trips I want to take after taking this last one.
Yeah, I lived up there right after college for about 5 years. I was a wilderness guide, take people on sea kayaking trips around the Inside Passage there, and then I worked for a big seafood company that was based in Ketchikan. So that
Yeah,
should be fun.
the student workforce is pretty heavy in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
industry.
Lots of seasonal workers. Where were you in Alaska
We
visiting?
did we did a cruise from Vancouver that ultimately ended up in Whittier, but went
Okay.
up the Inside Passage, stopped in Ketchikan, Skagway, Juneau,
Yeah.
um, toured Glacier National Park, um, and then the end of the tour was a land-based tour. So you jumped on the Alaskan Railroad in Whittier,
Yeah.
went through Anchorage, and ended up in Denali
Oh, cool.
National Park. So yeah, it was a pretty awesome trip.
Great. Yeah. It's an incredible state. Big. Everything's big up there. Hey, Lori,
Hi
JR,
there.
Allison, Richard, Mark.
Just give people a minute more. I know, Joe, that Sherry is going to be joining us loading the deck in just a second here. So,
Okay, great. Hey, Joanne.
Hi, Joe. Hi,
How you doing?
everybody. Lon, I heard the last part of your trip to Alaska, which sounded fabulous. A cruise a number of years ago from Vancouver up and ended up taking the train into Denali, and it was just spectacular.
Yeah, it was amazing. Everywhere you looked was like a trip through National Geographic. it was it was uh, it was an awesome trip and definitely something we're going to do again.
Wonderful. While we're waiting for everybody, I'm going to put in a little plug in case any of you don't have plans for this coming Saturday evening. Um, Liz Alessio is holding her annual hoedown, the Harvest Hoedown, and it's a really fun event. But this year, I want to bring it to your attention because it is benefiting first first responders, and it's a wonderful group called First Responders Care Network or something close to that, and they put on week-long retreats for first responders to help them cope with the trauma of the horrific things that they see frequently in the course of their work. And it's a really wonderful organization, and the event is fun. So if you don't have plans for Saturday night, it's at D'Ambrosio Vineyards here in Napa. Uh, One of the things my husband always likes best about it is that it's not a dress up affair. He can wear jeans. And lots of fun food and music and an auction and a really great cause.
I can't say enough about the network. I know a lot of people have gone through it and speak very highly of it and have a very close tie with them, being from the station up in England. So they have a retreat space up there. So yeah, great cause.
Thanks for sharing that, Joanne. Should we ping Sherry, Lori?
I am pinging as we speak.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, quick question for you.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has reached out with some technology that might be useful to some of the people who have some of these fire safety systems. It's a battery storage business, and he's interested in talking to some of those folks. Is there a clearinghouse where he can reach out to some of these people and share his information and his product with them?
I mean, I think probably I'm not sure if there's a clearinghouse. He could, I mean, he can reach out to Napa Firewise and we could list him on, we have sort of a resources page with providers, but my
Right.
guess is if he wanted to, he could just connect with different fire safe councils and they might be open to him, chatting about whatever his system is to the fire safe councils.
Yeah, I think he's more on the technology side for storing energy for use when the power is off and you need to get access to pumps and things of that nature. Never mind network stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to talk to him a little bit more about it, but we just happened to have a conversation in passing, and so I thought I would ask. But I think what I'm going to do is reach out to some of the people that I've met at the various events and put them in touch with some of those folks instead of putting it through an actual fire safety council thing.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, by all
If that
means,
makes sense.
backup power is kind of a pretty major element of resilience. So
Exactly, kind of critical.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you didn't happen to see the newsletter from Supervisor Ann Cottrell, she had an article in there, or not an article, but a paragraph about the Firewise matching grant program for fire mitigation. She had a really nice write-up in there, so she's still promoting that.
Yes, and we can thank Stephanie Smithers for promoting that to Ann Cottrell. So she's helping us get the word out, and we truly appreciate Ann Cottrell taking us up on that. Sherry, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate seeing you. And I'm out in Berryessa Estates for, speaking of Ann Cottrell, for the community meeting out in Pope Valley and Berryessa Estates. So hello from the East County. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen actually here. Don't hold your breath. Coming soon.
Wow, pat on the back. Sherry is multitasking, not only hosting this meeting on Zoom, but you're also in the Berryessa Estates or Pope Valley hosting a community or helping to host a community meeting by the Cal Fire and the Sheriff's Department is hosting for everybody. I'm stalling while you're doing your tech stuff there, Sherry, but
I'm just impressed that you have internet out there, because connectivity is often a challenge.
Thank you to St. Jonathan. Yeah, thank you to St. Jonathan Nixa. I'm in his I'm using his Wi-Fi over at his house. So the other meeting doesn't start till 6, so I'll be here for a minute. Okay, Anne. Let's see what you see when I share that.
We can see the website, or we can see the third slide in your deck. That's what we can see.
Oops, thank you very much. That's not the right one, but just start there. All right. So we have updates for you this evening, and from the Napa. Well, sorry. First of all, from County Fire Administration, J.R. Rogers, and then from Napa Firewise on a whole variety of topics that relate to your fire safe councils. And then we have some updates from the fire safe councils. Thanks to those of you who shared those with me, and they will go into the slide deck that I'll be sharing around on Friday, along with the recording from this meeting. And so if you wanted to submit, if you meant to submit one, you didn't have a chance yet, if you want to get it to me before Friday, I'll slide it in there. No one will ever know, except when they listen to this recording. And so JR, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, hello everybody. Good to see folks again. It's been a minute. I just had kind of two things to go over. One was the chipping program, which is why I have that picture. But please continue to push that out there. I would say participation this year is maybe not the most amazing, or I should say not what we'd seen in the last couple of years. So we've actually had to start pulling back a little bit on our rigs going out just because of volume. So we are pushing it like crazy on social media. I know the county is. I know a number of you folks are. Firewise putting some stuff out as well, but really just want to put a big plug for that. Our program is somewhat scalable, so we're able to do that. But again, we need to have the piles to do it. So just really encourage your membership to work on getting stuff out there. So that's the first thing. That website is insanely long, so please ignore. It's countyofnapa.org/chipping. Very easy. Is where your application lives to get in there and to apply to get your pile chipped. So countyofnapa.org/chipping. The other thing I just want to briefly talk about or just mention is some of the federal grants that are coming in. I know those topics have come up. I had a phone call from one of the leads asking some questions about one of the fuel breaks, which is awesome and I greatly appreciate. So 2 live grants currently, as you're all aware, the 2022 BRIC grant. That one is very much in phase 1, planning phase. It's a 14-month-ish, heavy on the ish, long phase that includes a significant amount of planning and determining, where to start, getting environmental done, marketing, getting input. It's a lot of work. So there's, while you may not have seen anything specifically at this moment, there's been a lot of work in the background here at the county level, kind of getting prepared to be able to do some of that rollout of both the fuels projects, the 7 fuels projects, and then also the Defensible Space Home Hardening Program. So I just want to mention that we're working on it. It's coming along, and we seem to be pretty well on track at the moment. And that's kind of where that sits. The second grant, we are not fully awarded yet. That should be coming anytime. And the reason I can speak primarily about it is because it's a non-competitive grant. It's a grant, hazard mitigation grant from Congressman Thompson that is working on 2 projects. One in the Lake Hennessy area for the Hennessy Rector folks. That's primarily around the water treatment plant and the pump station, but does include some work along the west side of the lake that ties into your evacuation route. And then the other one is in the Deer Park Fire Safe Council area, which is to continue the removal of dead and dying trees on Glass Mountain on the hospital property. So that grant is still working its way through the final stages of things at FEMA. They have a deadline to award here in the next couple of weeks, which will then get us into the environmental process to be able to start working on that project as well. So we have a third grant hanging out in the wind that's coming anytime at some point, but not anything to speak about on that one at the moment. So just want to give you guys some updates on that. And that's what I have, unless there's questions.
Thanks, JR, for those updates. I know that's a lot of work on the for the county to chase all the back end of that FEMA stuff. So
yeah, if anybody wants a lot of work and a lot of pain, feel free to do FEMA grant writing. That's all I can say about that.
Well, thank you for taking that on, for taking one for the team. It'll be really beneficial to everyone in Napa County once it gets rolled out, but I wish it were less of a painful process along the way. And then, so next up, we have a slide for the next bit, but I did have on here some updates from our veg ops team. Steve Burgess was going to join the call, but he's driving, so he may or may not be able to speak with us right now, knowing the cell phone coverage on the way out to various estates. But in the meantime, Joe, do you, or yell if you see Steve? I can't see him on my little screen here.
I don't see that he's on or
okay.
Mike necessarily.
Yeah, Mike, yeah. I'm gonna make it. So Joe, do you want to give any updates from the Napa Firewise, or did I miss it? Did you already give a Napa
No, I haven't provided any updates. I mean, just at a high level.
Project-wise, yeah.
Yeah, so at a high level, I'm not going to dig into specific projects, but Lori will be talking a little bit later on about how our plans to provide more consistent updates to the FSCs on sort of projects and things like that. So I'll let her address that. But just at a high level, the main things that we're really focused on right now are working through our list of projects for the Napa County contract related to 23-24. And we're working with the county to finalize our 24-25 contract that has a list of road projects, some CEQA work that we're going to do to reinforce some of the perimeter fuel breaks that weren't covered in previous contracts, and obviously we're continuing to work through some of our CAL FIRE funds. We've got a project that's getting close to launching that's down in Timber Hill, which is kind of near Browns Valley and involves Napa City and some county land. So we're working through some of our existing open grants. We're working to finalize our contract with Napa County for 24-25 that includes about 2.8 million-ish for a range of different roads and about 300,000 to do a bunch of CEQA work on some existing projects that we've already done, as well as a little bit of maintenance and some work on some specific fire roads, dozer lines that we've done some work on around the county. The only other thing that I know we continue to sort of press on, we have these remaining funds in a CAL FIRE grant from 21 that are associated with our defensible space cost share. And we definitely want to encourage fire safety councils to think creatively about identifying target residents that could benefit from that. We have a tight deadline on that. We've done a lot of work to really build the pipeline for that program, and we've started to kind of hit our stride with pushing out a lot of the reimbursement funds and sort of catching up on that pipeline. But anything that you all can do to help promote that program and get it out to your residents is really, really important. We're sort of up on plane now, and we're processing quite a number of those reimbursements each month, but there's additional funds there, and there's no conflict at all. So if folks take advantage of that program and they do $4,000 or $5,000 worth of work, they are absolutely eligible to apply for the stuff that'll be coming down the path with BRIC, as JR mentioned, about 16, 18 months from now. So that's kind of a high level on some of the big projects that we're working on and some of the larger contracts that we're focused on advancing.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's great. Any questions for Joe really quickly, and then we'll down the line. I'll share my screen again, but I did want to just mention the screen that I had up before. that's the landing page for Napa Firewise. Have any, can't do really a show of hands, but if you have had any trouble navigating or would like a overview instructions on how to navigate that landing page so you can zoom in on projects that are in your neighborhood and kind of the ins and outs of working through that, I'm happy to host a little workshop on that. Anyone can. If
you mean the dashboard?
That one, yes, the dashboard.
Okay.
Yes, the dashboard. So to be able to turn on and off the fire safe councils and find projects in your area and how to navigate the different. Sometimes there are a few different levels that are on top of each other, and just be able to dig through that. So send me a note if you have any questions about that, and then we'll do a walkthrough.
I'll raise my hand, Sherry, and say that, I think that would be a good overview just to get a little more familiar with it. So if you want to schedule something and then maybe send it out, then anybody that wants to that'd be great.
Yeah, you got it. And then we'll make a little video tutorial or slide deck or something so that people can do have the cheat sheet.
Sounds great. Thank you.
It's pretty cool once you wade through it a few times, but it does help to have.
I double like that idea of Joe's and yours, Sherry. There, where if we have Carol on the presentation as maybe the mastermind behind this map, and give everyone a chance outside of this meeting to do like a 1 hour fun seminar. Let's cruise around the county looking at this map and see what all these plans are and see what all the features. That map is so much fun to look at, everybody, when you have some guidance and you know what you're looking at. And there's so many hours of work making the map, and there's so many tens of thousands of hours of boots on the ground making the stuff behind the map. So sorry to jump in, but I have to say, man, I love that idea, Joe.
Excellent. We'll make it happen. Okay, let's see. Back we go. There it is. Okay.
I can just jump in, Sherry, if you're ready.
Okay.
We didn't make slides for everything that we are talking about with wildfire preparedness. I'm sorry if I sound a little grainy still. I still don't quite have my voice back. But wanted to cover a number of updates from the program this evening, but really the thread throughout all of these processes and structural changes that we've been looking at over the last couple months is really looking at the services that we offer, the type of things that we do in NCFF, to understand what we can do to improve our transparency and also our responsiveness. So we're reviewing everything. I mean, I'm just going to talk to the CWPP first. But what we're trying to do is go through every single thing and understand what we can do to make it more accessible and easier and faster, and so that people have an understanding of where they are in the process. So a perfect example is our CWPPs. If any of you have ever looked at our Monday board, you'll see that it's kicked off or not yet started or in process or out for signature. But what happens is there's really a lot behind it. And so this is just literally, I included this just as a working document that I have with Sherry and Carol as we started talking through what actually is entailed in creating a CWPP. And this doesn't actually show all of the steps. I think there's 5 steps just in getting the signature process. But the purpose of me talking about this is that we need to ensure better transparency to the program. And so while our intent is to update that Monday board, we're really in the process of reviewing each CWPP and Firewise community, just to be clear, and then understanding where they're at in the process so that we can provide a bi-weekly update out to everyone on the status. And in some cases, it's current, it's not due to expire for 6 months, but for many of them, where are they in the process? Because it actually is quite a bit of work for those of you who have gone through. And so we're in the process of aligning that. So every 2 weeks, you're going to be getting an update. So if you haven't heard anything, in the last week or so, when you think it's out for signature, or if you're waiting to hear back from, getting maps from Carol, you can assume that the longest you will ever go for an update on your CWPP or your Firewise community is 2 weeks. And it's a perfect example of, some steps are going to take 3 weeks, 3 months, just based upon the fact that FSCs are volunteers, and there might be a lot of work being done to develop what are the projects, and other things that might just take 2 or 3 days to turn it around. So within the 2 weeks since your last update, we may have actually reached out to you 3 or 4 times. But the idea is that going forward, we have more of a clarity on the process, and what it entails, and you're going to know where exactly your CWPP or your Firewise community update is.
What's WMR or WRM? I'm sorry.
That is Carol's business name. We talk about Carol, but isn't it Wildlife Resource Management? Isn't that the name of her organization?
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're starting to talk in terms of who's responsible, because Carol actually has other people on her team doing work for her as well. So sometimes there's people behind the scenes, but we have a tendency to think of FSC, Sherry and Carol, but we're now starting to talk about, the FSC, wildfire preparedness team and Carol's team, because there's more people involved getting this moving. So as you look at this sheet doesn't really tell you. What we're actually doing is building out a single sheet for every single fire safe council, so we can literally be tracking. But this was just an example of a working, just so that you know that we're really putting the time in to understand, to be able to turn this a lot more quickly. And similarly, you all received a finance report this last week. And I take no credit for that. I sent it, but it was really the team between the board members and the finance team creating something, again, not perfect in its first iteration, but as a starting point to start to get feedback. And thank you. Some of you have already emailed with feedback on things that you'd like to see, or something different, or a question that you have. So all of that feedback will go into as we continue to evolve that report. And I will say at this point, the way that the calendar works, the team is already building the July report, so you won't see that feedback until August as we start to really engage with that. So it'll always be about a month delayed. But sometime, our plan is the 4th week. If we can make it happen, it'll be the 3rd week of each month, but definitely the 4th week. You will be getting regularly a financial report. Again, consistently, so they won't be chasing that down. You'll know that it's coming. Obviously, in between, if there's a specific question, I can help field that. But the idea is this consistency. So you're going to hear about your CWP regularly, bi-weekly. You're going to have your monthly financial report. So this consistency of information, getting it back to you, and then responsiveness on things that come up in between. I just want to pause because I've been talking at you a lot and you're hearing my gravelly voice. And I just want to make sure that there's any questions right here before I jump into communication and events.
I'll just give quick feedback saying that looks like a great structure for all of the newer communities to follow. And the Berryessa Highlands Fire Safe Council, we're 3/4 of the way through that process. And we were going through it as expected, but a list like that would be helpful to have had and to have. And so I'm sure the other communities that want to take advantage of future BRIC grants will want to have CWPPs updated, and that looks like a great process. So I love giving kudos. So thank you, Lori. Looks great.
Well, it's been a team working on it, and I will say it's going to be super helpful for keeping these updated. So we won't have a CWPP expire. We'll say, 1 year from now it's expiring, or 6 months. When do we want to kick this off? We still have to figure out what that timeline looks like to give visibility, so it's not so far in advance. But to know, when does something need to, when do we need to start kick off anything that needs to be updated? So this is going to give us a lot more ability to be planful as opposed to reacting. And that's the goal here. And that's on us. And we want to make sure that we're managing that and providing that transparency to your team. So next, communication and events. I keep referring back to, you're going to hear about this every couple of weeks. One of the things that we're working on is a new newsletter. You'll see the first one this Friday that will come out bi-weekly, that will include, I talked about your CWPP and Firewise community status, upcoming events, project updates from the VEG team. And we're figuring out what that looks like, whether that's going to point to things on the dashboard or a list, or we're still figuring that out. So there's going to be some iterations of what that looks like. But the idea would be visibility into projects within your FSC and adjacent to your FSC. And we're still building some of this out. But we wanted to start getting this out to you so we can get reactions to it. And then there would be other news and information. Along with that, we're building out an events calendar that ideally we're going to have a 12-month rolling calendar, because we know, for example, every year we want to do, the Harvest Festival in St. Helena, or we know that every year, we're going to do certain things. So we're going to be able to build certain things out. And the other things we would be adding in, whether it's workshops or trainings or site visits, but we want to start giving people visibility in so they have the window and the opportunity to participate. If we know 2 or 3 months in advance on our personal calendars, it's a lot easier for us to, make plans to participate in an event than if it's like next Tuesday. And it's just a matter of getting ahead of that. So in your biweekly, we're going to start building that out, but we'll also have this on our website as well. But the biweekly communication will just be a chance, if you don't have a chance to go to our website, directed to your inbox will be something that you have that you can share out with your Fire Safe Council. So upcoming events, I don't know how many of you were able to go to the landscaping in the defensible space a week or so back, but we had a great attendance there. I think we had, Sherry, 25 or 30 people, not including our goats. And it was really, we had an engaged audience. I think Sherry and the team did a great job. And so much so that we're going to do a second one in October where it's going to be about home hardening again in St. Helena. So more to come on that, but these are some of the events that we have coming up. We are doing a project management workshop that we'll be telling you more about, and then a field projects tour related to that where you can go out and see some projects that people have done. But the project management workshop would be everything from planning, whether it's a fuels project or you want to do a communication, or perhaps you want to do a fundraising event. We're going to help you understand how to manage the various projects. And probably what we'll do is invite people to say, if there's something you want to bring to this, let us know what that is and we can help work through that. So we have someone who's going to be facilitating this, who's a project manager, and I think it's going to be super useful. And then again, another plan was, we had talked about earlier today, was letting people understand more about how to use that great dashboard. So either walking them through on a 1 hour, with Sherry to talk about how do you see all the events in your area, or doing a YouTube video that we could post, or just even the steps. Different people learn differently. So more to come on how we can leverage that dashboard as well, whether that's a workshop or an online. And any and other events that you would like to see us plan, again, please feel free to reach out to us if there's something that you think would be valuable for your FFC or for your community. We definitely want to hear about that.
I just wanted to add really quickly too, with the defensible space gardening / landscaping workshop we did at Central Valley. We did also develop some new materials for our website, and Stephanie is in process of putting that together along with the blog. I know that's a question that we receive a lot, and maybe your fire safe councils do as well, but what can you plant in your yard, and how can you think about your landscape design? And I did a lot of research looking for planting lists, like plants that are recommended for Firewise plants, and there's a lot of discrepancies among different lists. The truth is that all plants burn, of course, as you all well know, but this workshop was really about thinking about fire and plants and how things burn, and then strategically planting, spacing things out, and kind of how you look at plants as you're selecting them. So that was a big question in our community. We do want to take that show on the road too. So we're hoping to do additional workshops on that topic in different parts of the county, maybe like up in Calistoga at the Ace Hardware Garden Store, and then down in Napa as well. But we can come out and do them at people's houses and wineries too. So just putting that in your planning world. If you have any ideas for hosting that kind of a project, we're happy to help facilitate that too. And then home hardening will be our next one to look at some of the materials and things that people can do too that are inexpensive, but just explaining it. It's interesting, the questions that we got at that workshop, that a lot of people, I think we take for granted that people know what we're talking about, even to say home hardening. It's not necessarily true. So just planting that seed again.
And Sherry, thank you for bringing that up, because I think you did make a great point in that some of these workshops that we're providing, or some of these materials, isn't a one-time event, but it's something that we will continue repetition to talk about, whether that's through handouts or doing events, because you can't assume that everybody is coming to the table on this event at the same time. We might have a new homeowner in Napa who missed this last event, and it would be appropriate to do another event in the fall or another event in the spring, or to create a handout that says, if you have this in your yard, you might replace it with this. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can continue some of these. They're not a one and done, but they're a kickoff of an ongoing dialogue with the communities about what we can do on defensible space.
Yeah, and if you guys could carry those examples around, I don't know if it's possible to either bring plants with you to various meetings to really give people the visual example, or at the very least make a document that's a quick handout of here are the top 5 plants that we do recommend you plant. That's of course the number one question I think all of us in this meeting get is after they ask us what needs to be removed, they ask us then what can go in its place. And I've been doing this for 10 years now or more, and I still don't have the answer. I'm not a plant person, but I wish I were able to go on Wednesday. Or Thursday. It sounded like a great event, and maybe one of you all can get something together that's portable for all of us Fire Safe Council leads.
Thanks,
Thank
Evan.
you.
Yeah,
No, thank
absolutely.
you.
We will have, like I said, we'll have some cheat sheets on the website soon that are updated as far as planting and some ways to get landscape plans. There's some one you can do on the CNPS website that will allow you to choose fire safe as your priority, and then like what type of habitat kind of thing, if you want a meadow or a woodland or chaparral. And then you get a planting design, a planting lists, and they're all very clear about the 0 to 5 foot ember-free zone and spacing and everything else. So, and creative ways to make fuel breaks within your yard too, so that you can break up the continuity of fuels. So I think that hopefully that will really help people get excited about doing defensible space in the yard. The people who haven't done it already and are reluctant because they love their jungly yard, maybe being able to think about it from a perspective that checks the box for them too. And as for bringing plants, I did bring some plants today that were good Firewise selections that are going to be at the various estates show here. So, and then maybe another idea would be to get some donated potentially, and then auction them off, not auction them off, but have them as a raffle prize or something.
Oh, every meeting you go to, you raffle it off. You're spreading the good plants all around the county, and with a donation from Central Valley Builder Supply.
Yes, and I will. I just want to remind you too that one of the other things we've talked about in the past that I would really like to do, and I need your help, is collecting photos of ideally before and afters, but of really good examples of defensible space and beautiful different yards, because there's such a spectrum of what different people think is beautiful. So inspiration essentially for people for their Firewise yard. So then we can have a slideshow on the website. We could do a contest. I'm just throwing this out there as a general idea. If you want to do something specifically for your Fire Safe Council or as a larger project across the county, I'm game. I know Sonoma County did do one where they requested people submit them, and they had like prizes, and so we can make something fun out of it. But again, ping me if you think that's a fun idea, and we'll put together a little Fire Safe Council committee, or just collect them for your own Fire Safe Councils.
I think it's a great idea. Evan's got some good examples that he shared and we used in our community meeting. So I'll out him there, but he was personally involved in making him look that way. So go for it, Evan.
I'm behind on getting those to NCFF. I'm behind on a few things. Definitely. Thanks to the D-Space program, many of you, or you've all heard me say it, and I'll say it again, the Defensible Space Grant Matching Fund Grant Program is wonderful. We've had 8 or 9 properties in the Berryessa Highlands transformed thanks to that grant. And those 8 or 9 homes happen to be of the top 20 worst in the neighborhood. So it really makes a big difference seeing the changes. So thumbs up to the D-Space grant, and sounds good. I'll make sure, Sherry, I get you some pictures of some good defensible space. And I know, for that matter, Debbie on the call here, I just did some flagstone work for her in her front yard, and that's also a nice transformation from a.
Oh yeah, that was looking good. Great, thank you. Wonderful, thank you in advance. Oh, my computer.
So transitioning to that, that next slide of pitching the cost share, I feel like you've all done it for me. There's a reason that I think under wildfire preparedness, Joe has sort of structured us to not just to have the FSEs with D-Space sort of all, together. We really have gotten good traction. We've gotten more involvement over the last couple of months. We have people in our pipeline. We have people who are finishing the process in our pipeline, because sometimes you get in and I think they get their report and they get a little overwhelmed. And again, we have somebody great on our team, Camille, who actually reaches out and says, how can I help you, break through that to get them to take action? So again, there's still funding available. We really want to get those funds out to people and make sure that we are, getting this work done. And I also just wanted to call out for, if there are for low income residents, it's 100% and not just a 50% reimbursement. So I think sometimes that gets forgotten or lost. So to the extent that you have folks in your community who might benefit from that, and to the extent that your FSC has any funds for like neighbors in need that could perhaps, help make this happen. So again, I'm always going to be plugging this cost share. I really believe in it. I love helping to administer it, and hearing the feedback from people who've gone through it when they feel that, this has really helped them. So finally, I just wanted to quickly run through talking a little bit about our organizational chart for those who haven't been here. There's been a lot of changes as Joe's and the board have been sort of restructuring this. And I just mentioned that, we now have wildfire preparedness and DSpace, in the same place. And as we're talking tonight, you can kind of see why that all makes sense, that these two things really sort of engage together. And then going sort of to the next slide, Sherry, and kind of talking bigger about the organization and where we fit in. We sit along with, Veg Ops, and then other, resources like finance, where your financial reports came from, or with Stephanie doing all the comms. I wanted to let you know that, I will continue to act as a conduit for you to get access to all of these various sources on the team. And that ultimately, as we talked about, transparency, we've talked about, responsiveness, making sure that you are getting what you need, that we're getting back to you. But there's also accountability, and that's on me. I want to make sure that you're getting what you need across all of these sources. So if you have a question about your CWPP, you're going to reach out to me, and I will find out from Carol where something is at. If there's something that you need on communications, you can reach out, and I will make sure that Stephanie gets pinged. We're also going to be setting up a new, still to be determined on the actual name, but a joint mailbox, so that we never miss anything. Both Sherry and I will have visibility to it. When something comes back to you, it'll say from Sherry, it'll say from Lori, but we'll have visibility so that we don't lose track of these, different things that are going on, as one of us might be out or someone's in the field one day. So more to come on that, but I just want to let you know, we want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, and that going forward, we're going to try to have a structure in place to make sure that you have one stop where you can go and get what you need, and we will fulfill on that. And with that, I don't know if Joe, if you had anything you wanted to add, or if anyone had questions.
Yeah, I would just highlight that. So, I mean, when you're looking at this org chart, think that essentially the way we're organized is we have two programs: fuel management under Mike, and then all things wildfire preparedness that Lori is leading. That wildfire preparedness bucket is going to include everything related to any defensible space cost share work that we're doing. It's going to include everything related to FSC support and coordination. And then as we work to develop things like our fee for services model, that will be handled there. In general, the way we want the FSCs to think about this, and this is just to sort of reinforce what Lori said, is all requests for support services or otherwise from Napa Firewise from FSCs would route through wildfire preparedness. So if you need support with a newsletter, if you want to do a marketing campaign, we want all those requests to come through this email address that Lori is going to be rolling out, so that we can basically manage and track it, kind of like a customer service ticket. We have, we're making sure that we capture that information. So initially it might seem impersonal. Hey, I want a request. I just want to call Lori. We really encourage you, once we roll out this email, we don't know what it's going to be. Might be wildfire preparedness, the Napa Firewise, might be, we're going to determine what that is. If all of those requests can funnel through that email address, then Lori can work to sort of load balance and route stuff internally and be the traffic control to make sure that we capture the request, we're clear about what it is, and then we make sure our resources are aligned to delivering it and setting clear expectations about how we're going to do that, and that we're tracking it accordingly. So again, that's a finance report, it's a marketing, it's a question you might have about a grant, it's a request for a specific fuel project, it's a request for information about cost share, fee for service, any of that stuff. We just want to make sure that we're sort of centralizing it, and that way we're capturing it, tracking it, and making sure that we're closing out that ticket for you as quickly as possible.
And just to add on to that, sometimes when multiple people get a similar request, we don't realize that something isn't working well. So it's not until several people, we have that visibility, like, oh, there's an opportunity for us to have an FAQ on this, or we need to change this process. So having that line of sight across multiple people having a similar inquiry allows us to address that and improve on processes as well.
And the update email that Lori mentioned, it's going to have essentially, here's where you are with your CWPP, here's where you are with your Firewise designation. Did you cover Firewise designation when you went through that as well, Lori?
Yeah.
I just step away. Yeah. And then any and all projects. And then if there's just anything else that we're working on your behalf. And sometimes that communication, if it's coming out every 2 weeks, there might not be that many changes that have happened. Doesn't matter. We just want to be consistent about making sure that you understand the status of things, even if that status hasn't changed necessarily in 2 weeks, and any updates, obviously, if there is a relevant update. So ideally, you all, and we're sending it to the FSC leads with the intention that if you want to share it within your FSC, however you want to do that, that's fine. But we need to make sure that you all have the latest and greatest information. And if you ever have a question, you can just quickly, search in your inbox by that email to get kind of the latest status report that we've sent out.
Any questions on that? Does that make sense?
No, good ideas.
I do have a question, of course.
Yeah.
Back, and this might be like from 5 or 10 slides back, but maybe now's a good time. So question about the financial statement that you sent out, and I'm asking this because maybe others will have the same question. And a generic answer for now is fine, of course. So I noticed on our financials, and Joe and I were looking at it, and it shows a balance of $12,000. And we thought that basically there was a balance of $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000. Is there a chance that some of the balance includes restricted funds that NCFF had planned for, like some Mike Wilson, Ken Pridmore projects in the neighborhood, but they're not for like us to need to spend or try to spend? And so as everyone else just got their financials, maybe they have more money than they thought they had. Is that the case maybe?
So in general, Evan, well, certainly if others want to chime in, I can probably speak to that a bit. For most FSCs, that balance is going to be remaining funds associated with the Bill Dodd holiday fundraiser and or funds that you have just, we get directed donations from time to time that come in and people specify, here's $500. I want it to go to Hennessy Rector, or I want it to go to, Berryessa Highlands or whatever. So I think you raise a good point. We're glad that you saw a balance there that maybe was higher than you anticipated. One thing that we're going to sort of work on with all the fire safe councils in sort of the coming months is we really want to encourage folks. If you recall, when we did the Bill Dodd holiday fundraiser, there was directed money that was for a specific project, and the fire safe council submitted proposals and said, we want to do this thing for 20,000 or 50 or whatever it was. And we've largely cleared through those projects, but we also, for every fire safe council, essentially just did what I think was referred to as like a board designated fund of like $10,000 or something. And that money for many fire safe councils has sort of sat there. The intention was that they would be using it for, hey, we want to do a mailer, or we want to do a community meeting or whatever. And in some cases for many fire safe councils, it's continue to be there. And so I think we want to get with the fire safe councils and figure out what can we do? How can we help you sort of identify a project? Maybe it's an outreach project. Maybe it's a community meeting. Maybe it's a small veg project. Maybe you decide, hey, let's take 6,000 of that 10,000 and use it to supplement the cost share element for vulnerable people in our community to try to encourage them to take advantage of the Defensible Space Program. We just want to make sure that where we can, we're putting that money to work and we're helping you guys to generate ideas and then act on that.
Great. Yeah, no, it'd be great to get a monthly report update like that, and that'll maybe encourage us to do more fundraising. And then, yeah, I'm glad I pointed it out. Like, we'll take the money, of course. We'll all take the money, but I want to make sure it's not But Joe and I were like ready, or Joe especially, he's ready to start spending that money. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, we better make sure it's not restricted. So let us know.
So that's the answer to the question, though, Joe, is that it's if it's in there, it's not restricted, it's not, or is that, or should we investigate for more information? I'm sorry if
I mean, we could certainly, Sherry, Lori, let's go ask the question of the finance team, but I don't believe that it is.
Okay.
I don't believe that it is either. That didn't come up when I did my review, but I will certainly raise that question and get a formal response back.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just a quick note. I mean, you guys have been asking, understandably, for a long time for an easier to read financial report. And anyone who's experienced the old ones we got straight out of our QuickBooks report with our accrual accounting are probably laughing and crying right now that this beautiful, simple report is coming out. So the finance team will be making some tweaks to it, answering your questions and addressing some things, but we can take a deeper dive into your accounts too and make sure you have a clear understanding of them. But this will be a report going forward that is going to make all of our lives 37% happier and easier, less stress. So I, for one, I'm super grateful because I also struggled to navigate those juicy reports we got before. Oh gosh. All right, sorry. Was there anything else from the team here?
I think that's it. I want to make sure we have time for the FSC updates.
Yeah, and I might have to ask Lori to take this over. Let's see, I'll start with Silverado. I'm going to do two, and then Lori, I don't know if you can share your screen with the slides and if with the rest of them after this, but because I have to run back over to the meeting that's kicking off right at 6. Anyway, so let's see, and I can't, unfortunately.
Lori, or pardon me, Sherry, if you want us to, can you flip it over so we can just run with it from here? Because you got to get going, right?
Lori has it as well, so she can share, but this is a updated slide.
Okay.
And the information, so, going back. Yes. Silverado Fire Safety Council is, let's see who's going to be on.
I'm here.
Allison's here. Do you want to read your update, Allison? It was
I'll do it really quickly.
Highlight. Yeah, please do. And
okay.
I'll attach the rest of it to this when I send it around, but I thought it was really a great report.
Okay, perfect. Busy. We did our fire resource fair for the second time. We did it 2 years ago, and then we did it again. We did it the first time in August, which was probably a mistake. It was super hot. So this time we did it May 18th, and it started out raining, but turned out to be a great day. We had not a great turnout. The first time we did it, we had probably 100 more people than we had this time. But we had a great vendor turnout, 37 vendors. And everybody came very professional with all their audiovisual equipment. And we had most people in the tent, which you can see on the upper left in Silverado Country Club property. And they donate these things for us because we have 700 acres and, you know, it's definitely a mix between homeowners and the resort property itself. So we did an article in the Press Democrat, which was great, and that gave us a lot of publicity. We had some big equipment in the parking lot. We had a demonstration by Vulcan Vents. We had the Spider excavator. We had the all the CAL FIRE equipment, wildfire defense. Rosenthal's, PG&E was there, and Ember Defense. We had about 200 people, like I said, and we had speeches at 11:30. It started at 10, and it went to, I believe, 2. And we had speeches at 11:30 with Bill Dodd, David Chu, Ryan Isham, and Linda Canty, who is kind of the lead on our Fire Safe Council. We decided to charge the vendors for their, 3x6, 3x8 table, $100. And we received around $2,100 from that. And then this year, our idea was to adopt a goat. So our goats were also $100, and we got, and from our raffle, we did a raffle. We had a committee that were dedicated to doing that, which was great this year. We had about $3,124 from that. And I won't go through all the raffle prizes we did, but then after that, we did a huge fundraising push for people in the community to donate on a more regular basis to our defensible space. And we so far have raised $113,000, which was great. We had 288 donors. That turned out to be approximately $400 a donor. What we're looking for as a sustainable effort is about $250 a property. And that would raise enough money to do our maintenance, which is mostly goats and sheep at this point. We're still working on how to work those funds. We want to maybe start the goats earlier next year. So we're kind of saving some of that to kickstart our maintenance in 2025. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, you guys have been super busy with your fundraising, and the event was beautiful. It was really, really fantastic. I wish it was 1,000 more people had been there, just because it was such a great event. And I don't know what to say. It seemed like early in the year, people weren't really showing up for fire things. I think everyone felt like they needed to take a little break, possibly, from fire.
Maybe I did hear that most events were not well attended this year, so people sympathized with that. So we'll see. Yeah, we don't think we're going to do it every year because, like you said, I think people think, you know, oh, that again. So we're going to try and do it maybe every couple of years, and then increase our education in the other year.
Yeah, excellent. And I do want to also give you a shout out for all of your hard work fundraising for maintenance of the fuel break around your community. I know, Silverado got hit really hard in 2017. So the need is real. But maintaining these projects is a big lift, and funding is not available to do as much as I know as we would like all the time. And the more our fire safe councils and local communities can either do the work themselves, get their weed whackers out, have a party, or do some fundraising from the community. And so that might be another workshop for another meeting opportunity, would be to hear from some of our fire safe councils who've been very successful, and those who have struggled with it, because learning what doesn't work is also super helpful for shaking the local tree and seeing how many funds you can raise to get some work done.
That would be great. Thank you, Sherry.
And then I don't think there's anyone on the call from Gordon Valley today. I don't think anyone was available. So I did want to give them a shout out. They have been picked up ahead of steam. They've got you can see it kind of spills off the screen, on my screen anyway. But they've got their CWPP update is underway, and their Firewise USA application as well. They had a community meeting that was well attended, and it was 4 hours long, which I thought was kind of long for a meeting, but it was riveting. Nobody left. Everybody was happy to stay, and just kept, working away on the local action and emergency planning. They sort of rolled it all in their fire station. So yay for Gordon Valley. And they did also have a couple of Dan McQueenie's goats out front with their livestock guardian dog, which, it's a win for me. That's why I was there. Okay, no, not the only reason, but and then let's see, and Lon, I think I saw is on the call, and I just only shared one of the pictures that Lon sent, but do you want to take this away? And also, Lori, do you want to take over sharing the screen?
Yeah, I was trying to, but it's not allowing any other sharers. So
I'm hogging it all, but I'll try to go ahead, Lon.
Thanks, Sherry. I can just provide a really quick overview. We are just forming our FSC in Capel Valley, and I really enjoyed Lori's presentation, because I think we'll be the test case for kind of the more streamlined open communication process. So I'm really looking forward to that. But just a couple quick updates. We did our formation meeting for the community in January. We've done some ground truthing and groundwork with Jonathan Nixa, trying to get in line with the historical dozer line reestablishment and fire trail program mapping project. So we've completed that. We provided pre-fire plan walkthrough for our new battalion chief out in Capel Valley from CAL FIRE. Thanks to Evan, we're working on editing a project list and priority list for our CWPP. And on a more local effort, how I got involved in this whole program was trying to improve the fire resilience at our ranch at the lake. So we've been working locally on our property and entered into a great partnership with Corey from Napa Valley Pasture Protein. She actually lives right across the street from the ranch. And we worked out a very mutually beneficial rotational grazing project with goats. And we're making a lot of progress at the ranch, getting rid of a lot of the buildup of ground fuels that are still in place from the 2018 fires. But anyway, we've done a lot of ground clearing, a lot of burning, and a lot of grazing. So it's a never-ending project, but we're making good progress. Like I said, we're right at the beginning of establishing that CWPP, so we're looking forward to making progress on that effort in the report.
Thank you, Lon. Yeah, side note, the goat mascots for Napa Firewise live out there on our ranch helping out when they're not out attending events. Being spoiled. Lori, are you able to share now, or I can give you the keys to the castle? Maybe
I think we're actually done. That was our last.
There's one more. Sorry, I'll that too. And there may have. I'm sorry if you sent your report in and I didn't get it in here. Soda Canyon is Barbara. Did I see you on there?
Yeah, we don't see her listed, Sherry.
Maybe Barbara, but she did send an update, and maybe computer. There we go. Soda Canyon. So Soda Canyon, Napa Firewise was out doing an expanded fuel reduction along Soda Canyon Road. And we took out a whole bunch of dead trees that were hazardous to the road, and a big pot of fuel that was not very pretty. So Soda Canyon was extremely helpful in acquiring the needed landowner agreements, get the project going, and Kevin Kyle, of course, helped quite a bit too. And Soda Canyon is also updating their CWPP right now and working through their Firewise USA application. And there we go. I think that was everybody. Yeah, and then of course the links, which I'll send around with the rest of the slides on Friday. Now I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to head out, and thank you all. So you're welcome to continue the conversation or give additional reports verbally if you'd like, but thank you again, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks, Sherry. Good luck on your meeting.
Sherry.
Well, thanks.
And I know we're at time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's calendars and dinner plans. So is there any other items that people would like to discuss while we're all here together?
Richard Goss has a question. You're muted out, Richard. He's got his hand raised.
Sorry about that. Trying to do this on my phone, and it's a little bit different. No, I apologize for not getting our report in. We don't have a lot to say except that all those grants are going great down in the Mustang Road area. And thank you all for your help with those, because it's going well, and I think being well received.
Great.
Yeah, and I might as well jump in for Joe and Debbie and I to say that the Berryessa Highlands Fire Safe Council, we're on the final stages also of our newly completed CWPP, or updated, I should say, CWPP. So thank you to Carol and the whole NCFF team, and we're looking forward to being ready for the next steps.
Yep, and I would add that we have the approved application for Firewise USA, which we've already seen benefits for our community and gotten feedback from residents that it has been helping. So that's a big plus too. And we had a really successful community meeting in May, and we're planning one for October again. So we're looking forward to it.
It's great to hear. We're so close. We're so close on the CWPP. I mean, I'm thinking it's going out to signature in a matter of days. So I don't want to jinx us, but I think we're getting there. All right. If there is nothing further, I will adjourn us. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Again, please feel free to reach out to myself or Sherry. We will be unveiling our new shared mailbox soon. And when we do, you'll start seeing some things coming through that. But again, to echo what Joe said earlier, we are still both, we're in that mailbox, we're accountable, we're available, and you can reach out to us directly, of course. But that will just help us streamline and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Nice seeing you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Good night.